First off, thank you to everybody on this panel. The education that you guys have given me has changed not only my life trajectory, but my family lineage. And the return on investment that I have gotten from my time, my energy, and my money has been infinite, but it's also made a massive impact on me and the people that I work with. So it's an honor to share a digital stage with 4 iconic mentors and global thought leaders. So thank you. Now, you all have allowed me to change my perspective on how I view the world, not only when times are great, but when times are challenging. And I think right now I have been called an unreal optimist and somebody who doesn't look at limitations, because I think right now is the greatest time to ever be alive, to develop new skills, to expand our mind on what's possible, and to grow relationships. And I think the world is starving for empowerment, and even more so, women empowerment. So I'd love to start with Lisa. And Lisa, I want to know, what is your perspective on the world? How are you choosing to look at the world right now so it serves you and the ones that you love?
I mean, I think you just said it, right? A, it's a choice. And then B, it's a choice on whether you want it to serve you or not. So, you know, for me, I've definitely struggled with the negative voice in my head that's always telling me I'm not good enough, that you can't do something. And then it eventually came down to that voice doesn't help me. It only holds me back. And so if I really want to get to my goal, like the no BS, actually to get to your goal, to actually achieve it, to actually, you know, see it come into fruition, what do I have to do to get there? And it all starts with the way that I frame things and the way that I think about things, right? Perspective is everything. I can believe right now that the world is going to complete, utter crap, and you know, like it's going to end and the world's never going to be the same. And I can take it from a fierce standpoint, or I can say, oh my God, it's never going to be the same. How can this be the most amazing thing possible? Because I've got a choice to look at both perspectives. And one's going to keep me where I am, and the other one's going to propel me and encourage me and push me to start thinking outside the box, to really experiment and see what is possible. I think freaking the thought that human potential is limitless is so exciting, even if it's false, right? Like it's the thing that he says all the time, but it's so exciting to believe that that could be actually true. So I just always go back to that, like what perspective is going to serve you, and then just reframe.
And that's why I learned so much from you, Lisa, because the first thing you said, you led with vulnerability. And you know, everybody, somebody that looks at the panel like this, it's like, oh man, they're way above and they don't think negatively. I'm like, no, bullshit. They all do, they just get converted. So, right, I think that's beautiful with leading with vulnerability. So I want to ask everybody that same question. Tom, how are you choosing to view the world right now?
Yeah, so following Lisa is always a bad idea. It is that, so recognizing that it's a choice. So my obsession is getting people to understand they're having a biological experience. And for as much hype as this industry puts on spirituality and things like that, and I love that is part of the biological experience, is tapping into that awe and wonder, but to recognize that everything that you do and see and believe and taste, touch, all of it is happening through your brain, right? And so whether we actually live in a simulation or not, I think is irrelevant, because your brain is creating a simulation for you every day. Your brain is encased in total darkness, and yet you feel like you're seeing light, you feel like you're perceiving this world that's out there, but in reality, you're not. For all you know, the analogy of a brain in a vat is literal. It is literal. Your brain is in a vat. It just happens to be that you carry that vat around with you in your body, but you're interpreting this world through electrical, chemical stimulus, and that's it. And so for me, understanding the way that the brain works and understanding there's a region of the brain called the deep limbic system, its job isn't to tell you what's happening. Its job is to tell you how to feel about what's happening. And that different things will inflame your deep limbic system. And when your deep limbic system is inflamed, you're more likely to perceive something as negative. And that to me says, all right, there's biology going on here. What do I need to do to keep my deep limbic system from getting inflamed? And that is but one part. So one of my favorite quotes is, it doesn't matter what you look at, it matters what you see. And what you see is a choice. So being very careful to choose to see things that move you toward your goals, which I'll shorthand as empowering. But at the end of the day, it's either what you're believing and choosing to see and act upon move you towards your goals, or they move you away. And to me, that's how people should define everything in their lives.
I love that. Thank you, Tom. And now I want to go to two global thought leaders that have taught me so much about perspective. And every morning when I wake up, I read a gratitude poem, but I'm grateful for the challenges first to be able to convert that. And Dave, when I met you, I went and I interviewed you and I asked you what your favorite word, and I've heard kindness and I've heard gratitude. But share with me how you're using gratitude, the best antioxidant on the planet. And then I want to go to John for the brain science of it. But you tell me how you're choosing to use the word gratitude in the world today.
Yeah, I think there's a kaleidoscope of gratitude that includes productivity as one lens, accessibility is another lens, and then gratitude itself. So if you look at things within light, love, and lessons and everything, and taking off of what Tom said at an extraordinary level and bringing it down to where my brain works, we create outcomes or visions or goals. And if we know that we control our mindset, our feelings, what we say, what we hear, and what we do, if we detach those four things from the outcome and learn to enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of that outcome instead, then it changes the entire truly quagmire of gratitude, productivity, and accessibility. Productivity is you will feel good when you're producing things, meaning giving value. And regardless of the illusions that surround us, you control the value that you provide in any circumstance, and you can feel good about it. So if you're in the Holocaust, Viktor Frankl, he's feeling good about the value that he's providing in a very dire circumstance. Then accessibility is the connectedness of all. So if we're accessible to all, then we automatically have that throughput of inspiration. And true, how are we accessing what we want? And there's only one place to access what we want, and that's source. There's an extraordinary light, love, and lesson that comes through everyone. And the problem is we create all these clouds by the ego in separation, inferiority, superiority, anger, frustration, anxiety, whatever it may be. And then that allows itself to talk about what Tom was, as far as gratitude for me is that simple. I asked him earlier today, that simple choice, what's the better way to look at it? People ask me all the time, do you really believe in past lives and multiple lifetimes? I'm like, absolutely. And they're like, why? I said, well, scientifically, they'll never prove it. But I know one thing, if someone gives me a choice of one lifetime or multiple lifetimes, I'm going to choose multiple. And that's gratitude in a nutshell. So I think if everybody learns you can control what you think, what you feel, what you say, and what you hear, especially what you hear today, and what you do, and then detach that from your outcome and enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential, understanding incremental growth with exponential results, you can understand gratitude as a science, as a practice, and truly as a perspective.
Awesome, man. Thank you. And I use that every day. And it's something, the persistent pursuit of my potential, I use every day with me and with everybody that I talk to. So I'm one of your 1,000 to inspire 1,000 to inspire 1,000, 1 billion people on the planet to be happy. John, I still have the gratitude coin that you gave me. I bring it everywhere. Thank you. Another life moment for me. And so I've heard you talk about the Einstein brain and the Frankenstein brain. Tell us how we can use our brain, the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world has ever known, to choose a perspective that can serve us and are the ones that we love right now.
Well, hi, Ricky, and hi, everyone else. And Ricky, just so you know, I've got my gratitude coin right here on my desk, too. So Tom, when Tom was talking about, neurochemistry and biology, like I've had an ear-to-ear smile since he started talking about it, because that's my world. If we simplified our brain just for this examples, if we thought that within our brain we have an Einstein part of our brain, and Einstein could imagine all the positive things, all the good things, all the possibilities for us in the world. And Einstein can make choices, I want this or I want that. And then we also said that within our brain, there's another part of our brain, that's the Frankenstein brain, that says you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, this is terrible, this won't work. What if we also said that there's a part of you that can choose whether you allow Einstein to help you make decisions or Frankenstein to make the decisions? And when you allow Einstein to make the decisions for you, you can actually release those neurochemicals that make not just the feelings associated with those thoughts a possibility, but it also makes it a probability, because that's how you use your brain to allow you to see all the things that are in line with those possibilities and probabilities. And when you allow Frankenstein to figure out, like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if this is horrific? What if I get the coronavirus? What if I die? What if negative? Then you're actually releasing those neurochemicals associated with that negative or destructive part of your brain. Either way, you are right. Either way, as Tom suggested, you are creating that reality in your head, irrelevant of what is actually happening in the physical world out there. Because we don't see the world as it is, we only see it as we are. So the practice for everybody is to practice one of the greatest gifts that we all have. We all have a $1 trillion biocomputer without all of the user's manual yet. But one of our greatest gifts is the power of awareness. And awareness says that we can actually learn through some practice how to see both or many more possibilities. And then awareness is what gives us choice, and choice is where our freedom lies. It's not in the external things that are happening, it's in the internal representations and choices that we make. So the key is, yes, there's some things happening in our physical world that are horrific. People are dying. There's a threat that feels like there's a predator coming at us. I get that. And we are still a choice where we can respond instead of using our animal instincts, and we react. And so the key is awareness gives you choice, and choice is where your freedom lies.
And to the world that's watching, this is why these people have changed the trajectory of my life. And it's why right in front of me, I have WWYMD, what would your mentor do? So when my shitstorm comes, or I'm having a tough time converting energy, I literally look at these four and I say, they might complain a little bit, but they're going to convert it. So that's how I use you guys as leverage to increase the quality of my life. And whether it's Meltzer University, NeuroGym, or Impact Theory University, what has taught me is, like, look, coronavirus is going to start and it's going to stop. At sometimes this too shall pass. If I walk out of this thing with the same skill set, with the same mind, and with the same relationships, then damn, shame on me. So what I want the world to know is something tangible. What have you grown in this time? Where have you excelled? Whether it's a skill set, whether it's a mindset, whether it's a relationship, and how did you work on that? And how did you start to work on it? But also, how did it serve you? Let's start with Tom.
So I'm going to give a lot of credit to my wife here. When we started with the coronavirus, she made a really interesting statement. And she said, look, I want to come out of this remembering the good things and not the bad things. And to do that, we're going to need to try some different things. So let's create our ultimate environment during this time. And I get very focused. I make rules in my life. And in the back of my mind was always this loop running that was like, hey, you've gotten so efficient at living your life the way that you live it now. You're not testing anything new. So coming into this, we said, all right, this is going to shake everything up. This is going to force us to do things differently. So let's run some pretty radical experiments. So we've been doing things like, I speak to my family more now during technical isolation than I did before. So same with friends. We've set time where we're doing dates just like this. I mean, you know, from our perspective, it's literally the five of us hanging out, and we've been doing that with our friends, not recording it, literally just, you know, like hanging out for a little while with people. I never would have done that when we weren't in isolation. And then also, we've isolated with my sister. So my sister lives in LA. And we said, hey, come live with us. And so she's been staying at the house. And so we're taking time to spend like quality time every night, doing things that sort of work double duty, I won't lie, but, you know, things that are both sort of research for some endeavors that we're doing, but we're doing it as a family and together. And so it's created this totally different texture and become a social experiment on our side of rethinking how we spend our time, sort of re-optimizing, making sure that we're pushing our business forward and all of that, but trying out different things. It's really been incredible and a powerful reminder that you can get deeply efficient But if you don't challenge assumptions and test new things, you're going to forever be in that same rut, getting the same outcome. And so taking some amount of your time, 10%, 20%, it doesn't have to be a lot, and running new experiments, I think has really been beneficial.
Awesome. And I love that. Look, so whenever you guys say anything, I'm looking for takeaways, and just the simplicity of trying new things. What a great time to try new things. So Lisa, with the Wonder Woman figurines behind you and your women power, what is something that you are trying something new, or what new skill set, mindset, or relationship have you expanded during this time?
Yes, I'm going to kind of piggyback off him. Obviously, having Women of Impact, where I get to interview just incredible women. The thing that comes up all the freaking time is their story. The story they were told as a child, the story they held on to about who they were. Same with myself. I had extremely low self-esteem. The story I told myself was I was very creative and art wasn't a respected profession. And because I wasn't great at math, the story I told myself was that I wasn't smart. And so as we started going into quarantine, it hit me hard. I was like, this is a story that all of us, every single one of us is going to leave with, right? In 5, in 10 years, in 15, in 20 years, we're all going to have a story looking back. So the question is, what do you want that story to be? And to me, I was like, I want that story to be of utter fun, of utter celebration, of exploration of my own self-esteem, my own skill sets, my own confidence. What are the things that have really knocked me that I didn't realize would knock me, that I thought I was really good at? Okay, this is an amazing opportunity to reassess that, to work on those skills. The same with him. I mean, he literally, when the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to bed, he is working. And so in this quarantine, it's like to be able to have a story of, oh my God, we had like a slumber party every single night for an hour, which we never normally have. So I'm actively working on what is that story and how do I make sure on a daily basis I'm confirming that story so that in the future I look back and it feels very real to me. So that's actually something I'm consciously doing every single day.
A coronavirus women power story. Like, what is your story, right? And Dave, man, Dave, I love Dave because he tells me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. Dave ain't afraid to tell me, to rip me, which I love. And he's made me so much better. So Dave, what's one challenge that you've gone through or that you've been able to develop either a skill set or a mindset or relationship during this time that you don't think may have happened during this time if it weren't for coronavirus?
Well, without a doubt, it's my own kids. I have 3 teenage daughters, 2 home from college, and I sit there every night. I actually started doing some content on it, which just took off, which is hilarious. But for me, I came into it thinking I'm going to practice ending fear with compressed time and uncertainty and accelerated change. The faster, I lived in years of fear. The story I told myself is, I'm not enough, and I was poor, and it took me years. I lived in fear, which I didn't understand the difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivated me all the time, but I lived such a corroded, energetic life of just living in motivation, no inspiration. And I thought, this period of time would help me practice ending fear, making, what went from years to months to weeks to days to hours to minutes, but I bring it down to moments where I could, like John said, raise my elevation, my vibration or awareness to identify these needs of the ego so that I could go back to center and accelerate. But the real lesson came out that I'm not a great father. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not a great father. I can be so much better of a husband, so much better of a father than I thought I was being. And I had gone through in 2008 some tough times that refocused me on my family values and my health values. And all I realized was I have a long way to go because I would trade every Super Bowl I've ever been to, Pro Bowl, Masters, Kentucky Derby, Breeders' Cup, all the things that people think, gosh, I wish I had Dave Meltzer's job, to be able to sit at dinner every single night. This is the first time I've slept in my bed 7 straight days since I've been 24. And I would pay money. I know they would take my kids if I televised my dinners because of the stuff that goes on at my dinners. But honestly, it is the most enjoyable, fulfilling event. I can't wait till 5:15 happens and I turn everything off and have my entire family. I brought my niece in as well. She's a character, but without a doubt, that's the lesson that I've learned, that I'm on the path of humility. And no matter where I think I am, I still have a long way to go.
So if people are hearing that, practice ending fear during arguably the most fearful time in our lifetime, which is a global pandemic. If that's not strong, I don't know what is. So John is the reason why I have a vision board behind me. And John, share with us one skill set, mindset, or relationship that you have grown during this time that might not have happened if it weren't for coronavirus.
So about 5 weeks ago, actually 4 weeks ago, I realized that I was not doing certain things that I had relied on my team to do. So for example, setting up my technology to do videos, ads. I've got a team that's been doing a lot of those things. And in line with what Lisa was saying before, I was telling myself a story that I can't do an event because I don't have my team. I can't do ads because I don't have a camera set up and I don't know how to use technology. I can't use Zoom or Skype or anything else because I'm technologically challenged. And so I wrote down, took a sheet of paper, wrote down, because of coronavirus, I can't. And I just started out filling out all these things I'm saying I can't. And I realized that these limiting beliefs of mine were really holding me back. And so, for example, this past Saturday, I filmed 24 little videos because I figured out with my team how to set up my camera and teleprompter in front of my office here. I've got lights in my home office, which I turned into a studio now. I've learned how to become so proficient at Zoom now that I could even do, some of the extra background stuff and do this while I'm talking to you. Now, listen, in the past, if you didn't like that, I can go, well, good, join me at my little, retreat. I had a hard time before sending out emails on my own, let alone doing any of these, little technological stuff. So now I know how to do Zoom. I know how to create my own appointments. I know how to do my videos. I actually learned how to freaking edit on my iPhone because I make mistakes on some of my videos that I want to put them together. And like, holy shit, I'm actually pretty good at it and I like it. And now I'm learning how to put some music onto it. So I am at 50, almost 59 going, holy shit, I can do all this shit that I thought I couldn't do before. And it's actually fun learning this stuff. So I've gotten myself way out of my comfort zone, doing things more self-sufficiently than I ever had, which is increasing my self-confidence and my certainty and my creativity. And so Lisa hit the nail on the head before, that we all have this story, whether it's a story about how smart we are, how good we are, how whatever it is we are or we're not. And you know what? It's just a freaking story, and we can change the story. And as soon as we change the story, we change. And as soon as we change, then guess what? Now we're growing. Now we're really being alive. And this is a time, like I've been through, I think this is my fifth, recession, depression, pandemic, whatever you want to call it, back from 1980. And we will get through this. If you focus on how you can get through this better, you will get through this and end up being better some way, somehow. And the key is, what are you focusing on? Why you can't or how you will? Which one?
I love it. Thank you. And I'm cracking up as Dave starts sharing his background. Like, hey, I got this skill too, man. I probably learned this skill during coronavirus too. So Dave, I want to come back to you. And one of the things that you taught me that is so valuable, and I use it every single day, is ask and attract and asking for help. I think it's one of the greatest times to be alive because it's one of the greatest times that we can activate one of the greatest skills on the planet, which is asking for help. So when people are like, okay, that's great. These are iconic global thought leaders. But I love how everybody's leading with vulnerability. So I know you're stop, drop, and roll. When someone says, okay, fine, I did that, but then I get kicked in the teeth again, and I get kicked in the teeth again. What is your one thing to actually implement when that challenge comes, and how does that help?
Well, when any challenge comes, I have two choices, right? First is to take care of it myself. The second is to ask for help. So I've been focusing on capabilities. I think I was with Tom earlier today, and we talked about the Bob Proctor, more millionaires are made during the Depression than any other time. Why? Because people find capabilities that are synergistic or supplementary to the opportunities that are available. And there's variants of places to find out where your capabilities, your story aligns with what you can do Tom also said earlier today, which I loved, is if you're not developing skills right now, you're a fool, especially these young people, because what's happening is old geezers like John Assaraf and I, we're learning that you're just like lawyers. Lawyers made up this bullshit language called legalese. I'm a lawyer. And when I went to law school, I was so disappointed. I'm like, you took like these basic things and made up words for them so that we didn't know and you could charge $500 an hour. That's what these 17-year-old little schmucks did with TikTok and all this BS. This stuff's way easier than law school. It's way easier than business school. It's way easier than dealing with mortgages and businesses. So watch out, young people, because guys like me and Geezer over there, we're coming after you. We learned how to do these little green screens. We're not afraid of learning. And guess how I learned? Humility. I asked my 7-year-old son for help, right? That's how I learned how to do it. I asked my kids for help, and I keep on asking for help instead of trying to do it myself. I'm not Midas, but I am completely humble. I'm going to find the people that know how to do it, sit in the situation you want to be in. And there's tons of them out there. And the best part about asking for help, no better way to make somebody feel good than to ask them for help. It's automatic. And you know, I'm a happiness guy. My mission's about happiness. The best virus in the world is happiness. It spreads by witnessing. It strengthens your immune system. So go out there, make habit of asking for help, especially now, and you will come out of this more than 1% better.
Thank you, Dave. And John, I want to come back to you because when you gave me that gratitude coin, I asked for your help and I said, hey, would you film this so I can watch it over and over and over again so it can make me feel awesome? Share one thing. I know you mentioned your staff, but one thing that you think people would benefit from asking for help, whether they know the person, whether they don't.
I mean, listen, when we're at home, in many cases, you know, alone or with our significant others, family and friends, and we're having our own mental or emotional struggles around how to navigate through this, I think it's perfectly a great thing to do right now to share how you're feeling and to say, hey, I just want you to know how I'm feeling, and is there anything you can do to guide me? One of the things I learned many, many years ago is we all do really need each other. We all really are connected. If you don't believe that, just think about why you're staying home if you don't think you're connected. We all need each other. And when we share our most vulnerable emotions in a safe environment, then it actually will elevate who we believe we are, and it will elevate the other person who wants to help. There isn't a human being that I have met in the world yet that when you ask them, do you enjoy helping other people? Almost every single person I've asked, without exception, said, yeah, I actually love it. And so when we are vulnerable and we say, hey, I need some help, what you're going to find is you will find so much help that lift you up when you need it. And if we lift each other up as we climb, we lift each other up as we climb, as we figure it out, lift somebody up and help them figure it out, and they will lift you up as they figure it out. That's how we raise humanity's vibration. That's how we recall, right? Recall that we are a spiritual species and we seem to be independent with these physical bodies of ours, but we're not.
And I love that, man, because as you lift other people up, it allows you to grow. And I just learned this about a couple months ago. Dave helped me with some speaking events in Australia, and they have a thing in Australia called the tall poppy syndrome, where they cut other people down when they're successful. So we, thanks to all your guys' help, are inventing a poppy lift syndrome to help people get to where we are so you can go a little bit further. So I want to come to Tom and Lisa. I mean, man, through Impact Air University and just the generosity of Tom and Lisa, I was able to go and watch Les Brown be interviewed. And I said, hey, Tom, Les is like one of my Babe Ruth speakers. I was like, do you think I can get a picture with him? And not only did he get a picture, he actually interrupted the set and said, hey, this is one of your biggest fans. And he introduced me. I got to give Les a big hug. And then he did his poem for me, which I've studied Les for a long time. And it was just another life moment that the four of you have helped me do. So Tom, but I asked Tom for help. And I was like, hey, if he says no, it's okay. But at least I did my job in asking. So Tom and Lisa, who has helped you, or who have you asked for help that's helped you maybe in this time or any other time, so people can go out and ask for help?
Wow. You want to talk about a list that is extraordinarily long. So many people have helped me along my way. My father-in-law has contributed extraordinarily to my life. When I was a young punk kid who did not want to marry his daughter, by the way, he was still extraordinarily generous with his wisdom, which I didn't take in the beginning. And I have since apologized. I want to be very clear. I literally pulled him aside and I said, look, you gave me some of the best advice ever, which anybody who's familiar with my interview style can thank my father-in-law. He had pulled me aside when he realized that I was going to marry his daughter, and he thought, all right, well, I better give this guy some wisdom. And he said, look, the key to business is to know more about the subject than anybody else. And he said, you'll see opportunities where they'll only see obstruction. And I thought, oh, cool, yeah, thanks. And I was like, at the time I was an employee, I was like, my boss doesn't think like that, so that's not like super useful, but thank you, it was very sweet. And then, of course, I don't know, 3 or 4 years later, I'm working in a startup and realized that that was the best advice ever and is exactly what I used to go from copywriter to being an owner in the company. And so I pulled him aside and I was like, yo, I want to tell you, I ignored that advice for years at my own peril. It is the most extraordinary advice ever, and thank you so much for that. My wife has been amazing. I once asked her, hey, could you just really fast help us ship some of these protein bars out? Like, that would be really cool. We don't have anybody else to do it. I know the company's like super small, but we just need somebody to ship these couple orders out. And that turned her into now my business partner, and started her from going from, a housewife to really being an extraordinary entrepreneur in her own right. So definitely glad that I asked for that help. The guys who were my business partners were extraordinary and have contributed meaningfully to me in 1,000 ways. They were the people I went to when I was, I had no idea. I was eating less than I'd ever eaten in my life and putting on more fat, and went to them for advice on nutrition, and that changed the trajectory of my entire life. So there really, really have been too many people to count.
I've seen your before and after pictures, so I know. So I got Lisa. I want to finish with you, and then we'll go to some Q&A. But Lisa, I truly believe the world is starving for women empowerment, and it's something I have learned so much from women. I have Shanda Sumter, Mel Robbins, yourself, Sonia Hatter, Karolina Protsenko on my wall, and coming from a woman's perspective, like what can you share with women on how to ask for help, and that it comes from strength, not weakness?
Yeah, God, I was definitely that person that saw it as a weakness, 100%. Even when we started Quest, I was just working myself to death and just because I was so conscious of trying to be the best wife possible and the best wife to support my husband. So when he came home, he's like, hey, there's just a couple of bars. Do you mind just shipping them from your living room floor? My dialogue was like, of course I have to support my husband, but I didn't expect it to grow at 57,000%. So, shipping from my living room floor and being the boss of my 2 dogs, and within 2 years, shipping $80 million, and having 40 employees underneath me, I just kept going, and I didn't want to ask for help because I thought that would make me look weak, that would make me look like a lesser wife, that I couldn't, stand up for myself and support him. And so it got me into real health trouble. And that was really where I realized, okay, Lisa, you're trying to be strong, but in searching and trying to be strong, you're actually making yourself weaker. And I want to go to something what John said, which I freaking love, and this is exactly how I see it, is that I wouldn't see somebody else as being weak if they asked for help. So why do I see it in myself? I think it was Brené Brown that said, when people, the vulnerability, that when you go up on stage, you're so petrified that people aren't going to think that you're good, that you're going to be seen as being terrible, as being weak, but she's like, but when you're in the audience and you see someone stepping on stage, when they show vulnerability, you actually see them as being strong. And so it's really that shift in perspective, right? That we said at the beginning. It's like, once you can turn that around and say, oh, actually, feeling weak and reaching out to somebody is actually a sign of strength, because it's freaking hard to do. Like, it was actually easier for me to just try and take everything on myself than to take everything off and turn to my husband or my business partner and ask for help. Like, that was harder. So I think that we need to shift our perspective as women and just say it can be a sign of absolute strength to admit when you don't know something, to admit when you can't do something, and then grow from it, right? I'm not going to then stay in that same place. I'm going to ask for help, see how someone else is doing it, and then grow myself. And that to me is like the biggest sign of strength.
Awesome. Thank you. That's extraordinary because it's so powerful. And I think that's where people kind of miss the boat sometimes. We got about 10 minutes left, and I want to go with Lisa again. So this first question is from a dear mentor and friend of mine, Amy Sorter. You guys actually did a little video for her, and she has taken so much risk, and she's gotten knocked down and knocked down and knocked down, but she keeps plugging away and she keeps asking for help. Everything I learned from you guys, I share with her, and she does it. So that's the impact you guys are having on the world. But her question is, what's the best advice that you've ever received, and how did you implement it into your life? And if you want to say hi to Amy, that's cool too.
Hey, Amy. Oh God, I don't know if I can really pinpoint it to one to be, you know, like utterly transparent. It's really like been an accumulation over time. But I don't know if this is advice more than a statement from this man here, which is, you're not good enough yet. And I actually just did a post today, in fact, that was like, you're good enough. And the whole post is, I saw this whole thing that's like, you're good enough. In fact, you're actually overqualified, but let's stay humble for today. I loved it so much. I took a photo, I showed him, and he looked at it and just blank. So I was like, well, why are you blank? And the one thing I love about it, we have utter honesty. And he's like, I don't agree with it. And I was like, well, what do you don't agree with? He's like, but if you think that you're good enough, what's going to push you to grow and get better and learn? And I was like, yeah, I agree. And I was like, but hang on a minute. I agree with also being good enough. And so it's really holding these two competing ideas in my mind at the same time. It's, I'm good enough so that I don't beat myself up and don't take steps backwards and don't feel bad about myself. But I also remind myself that I'm not good enough yet, so that I can keep growing and getting better and improving and getting strong. And if I had a husband that was just trying to be sweet and kind and stroke my ego, he'd be like, baby, you know, you're perfect, I love you just the way you are. But he doesn't do that, and I love him for it. So it's not really necessarily advice, it's really a statement of just saying, like, you can always improve. No, you're not good enough yet. That pushes me every single day to get better without feeling badly about myself or denting my own ego.
I love that. And I use that all the time, Tom, is that like, man, I just haven't learned the skills yet. I'll have to be as average. So I'd love to go to Tom and then Dave and then John in the last about 5, 6, 7 minutes that we have. But what's the best advice that you've ever received, and how did you implement it in your life for Amy?
So the best advice that I ever received is what I was saying from my father-in-law, that the key to success is to know more about the subject than anybody else. This is my obsession that Dave and I were talking about earlier, is use this time to get better. Getting good is real. At the end of the day, your skills have utility. They let you do something. You don't read a book to be able to say I read it, or learn a skill to be able to check a box somewhere. You do it so that you can actually do something other people can't do. And, you know, as we go through this difficult time, staying positive is huge, but getting better, I think, is even more important. So that advice is really, really become the North Star in my life.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. And Dave, best piece of advice that you've ever gotten, how did you implement it into your life? Oop, I think you're muted, Dave.
I'll learn how to use this eventually. You're safe, young people. See, very obvious. Be kind to your future self by being kind. And kindness is so important. I've implemented it out of manipulation, lying, cheating, overselling, thinking that I could control what I wanted, but instead to live in humility by simply being kind. I do want to add just real quickly, and then I'll let John finish. You know, there's so many people out there that are hitting me up that are depressed, anxious, even suicidal. And I only have one piece of advice for them. You know, you can't tell someone that's depressed, anxious, and suicidal, just look at the glass half full, right? There's people like all of us that were born with the quantum gene of happiness. We're going to be happy no matter what. It makes us accelerate what we're doing, just like LeBron James can play basketball at a higher level than I ever can. But what you can do if you're anxious, depressed, fearful, even suicidal, is before you lose all hope, go do something kind for someone else. Simply, that's all. It's the only secret sauce that I have in life. No matter what position I am, whatever level I think I'm at emotionally, is the go-to. It's impossible. That's the true light and love of life, when you can go ahead and be kind and you will feel better no matter what your quantum depression is, your quantum nature is. So be kind to your future self by being kind.
Awesome. And John, best piece of advice. Thank you guys so much. I'm just like, I'm antsy with joy right now. But John, take us home. And then I got one last thing before we close up. But best piece of advice that you've ever received, and how did you implement it into your life, from Amy Sawyer?
So one of the best pieces came from my first mentor 40 years ago when I was 19 years old. I was getting in trouble with the law. I had left school at grade 11, just an absolute mess in my life. And he asked me to write down some of the goals that I had for my life, for health goals and wealth goals, a relationship, career, charity, etc. And then he asked me a question that one answer changed the trajectory of my life. And he asked me this question. He said, every one of those goals that you want to achieve, it was a statement first. He says, those are all achievable. We know the how to achieve them. He says, but what will define and determine whether you achieve them or not is whether you are interested or you're committed to achieving them. And when I asked him what the difference was, he said, if you're interested, you'll come up with stories and excuses and reasons why you can't or why it can't be done. But if you're committed, you'll do whatever it takes. You'll figure it out. You'll upgrade your knowledge, your skills, your beliefs, your perspectives, your habits, and you will become the person that can achieve every one of those goals. So the way I translated that to my life now is anytime I want to achieve something, I have this idea. I ask myself, John, are you interested in achieving that? Or are you committed? Are you prepared to do whatever it takes? Because listen, I think everybody on this panel will admit one thing. You want to achieve success, it takes effort. It takes work. It takes busting your ass to upgrade your knowledge, your skills, your beliefs, your habits, your mindset. And if you're serious, you'll do whatever it takes. And if you're not, then you'll just be interested. So I like to think through, am I committed? If I'm committed, let's do it. And if I'm not, then let's just drop it.
Awesome. And you guys are perfect with timing. We have 1 minute left. I love taking pictures, and I like documenting memories to use to serve me. And so one of my ways to convert energy from negative to positive is to have an album on my phone. It says, I am great, because I don't think we do that enough, but people can tell us the excruciating detail of what we suck at. But so I have an album of sense that says, I am great. So when my shitstorm comes, I just start reading, because I know, thanks to you guys, and you women, that my mind cannot be grateful and fearful at the same time. So that's a tool that I use. And I would love to get everybody to give a thumbs up and get a picture so I can put it in my I Am Great album. That would be awesome. Yes. And awesome. And I also want to take a quick video. Thank you to Dave, Tom, Lisa, and John, iconic thought leaders, global thought leaders that have changed the trajectory of my life and my family lineage. Your impact is known more over the world through me than I can ever explain. So I thank you, thank you, thank you.